Hello and welcome to Business 360. I'm Shireen Bhan. The headlines that we're tracking for you this evening. The Sensex and the Nifty end at a two-week low after a broad-based decline. 49 out of the 50 Nifty stocks end in the red. The rupee hits a fresh record low against the dollar as it moves closer to the 85 mark. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman terms the slowdown in Q2 GDP growth as a temporary blip. Says the government's capital expenditure effectively began only in August. He expects overall growth rate to pick up going forward. The GST Council is likely to consider lowering the tax on food delivery by online portals from 18% to 5%, but they will potentially lose input tax credit benefits, bringing them on par with restaurants. Council will also consider tax exemption on small ticket card payments made via payment aggregators worth up to 2,000 rupees. US President-elect Donald Trump announces Softbank will invest $100 billion after meeting Masayoshi Son. Trump also meets TikTok CEO and says he has a warm spot for the company but remains non-committal on protecting the firm. TikTok needs to divest Chinese ownership by the 19th of January to avert a ban in the US. Ukraine claims to have killed the top Russian general by placing a bomb inside his residence in Moscow. The general was accused of ordering chemical weapon attacks on Ukraine and was sanctioned by Western nations. Israeli forces continue to pound Gaza, killing at least 14 people overnight. The overall death toll crosses 45,000. Israel also intensifies attacks on military infrastructure across Syria. The government introduces legislations to conduct simultaneous elections in the Lok Sabha amidst fierce pushback from the opposition. The Congress calls the bill unconstitutional. The government refers the bill to a joint parliamentary committee for further deliberation. Authorities enforce stricter restrictions as air quality deteriorates in the National Capital Region. All construction activity banned. Schools ordered to switch to hybrid mode. Paytm shares rise for the third day, even as it remains 50% below its IPO price. The lifting of the ban to onboard new UPI customers and the stake sale in Japan's PayPay Corporation boosts sentiment. The representation of women in corporate boardroom remains largely stagnant this year, according to a survey by Excellence Enablers. The average age of the boardroom is over 63 years. Out of the 561 independent directors, only 19 are below the age of 50. Well, let's head straight to today's trading action. A broad-based decline saw the Lal Street ending at a two-week low. So let's bring up the market snapshot for you. The Sensex saw cuts of over 1,000 points today. The Nifty down by about 330 points, losing almost 1.5%. And the mid-cap index was down by about 341 points. That's 0.5% of a cut there. The Bank Nifty down by about 750 points. So that's the market action for you. Continues to look weak. Prashant, what's weighing on sentiment?
Unenthusiastic kind of performance by the bulls today, and at no point did it look like they really wanted to come into the game at all. I mean, the market looked a little sulky in the morning, sideways, and then, of course, it just gave up gains, and it looked definitively down by the time we actually entered the second half of the day. So over 300 points lower on the Nifty. I mean, if you're looking for a trigger, something to blame, there wasn't any really, except maybe, I mean, the dollar, which perhaps rose a little bit during Asian trade, and the dollar index is back around the 107 levels. But that's it. The Nifty Bank also was under pressure. Actually, the Nifty Bank lost more, significantly more than what the Nifty was down by. And unlike yesterday, when the broader markets saved the day, you had the broader market also, which was under pressure. So mid and small cap indices, both up on your screens. Nothing large, but down nevertheless. I'll start with, actually, on the Nifty, nothing very much higher at all. I mean, the biggest gainer was under 1%. So I'll leave that. I'll start with what was down. Shriram Finance, there was Grasim, Hero MotoCorp, Bharti, IndusInd Bank and JSW Steel were some of the big losers. Declines outnumbered advances by a hefty bit. And I'll start with losers. HCC, there was a deal. MGL was down sharply. TARC, that's a smaller real estate company based out of NCR. And there was negative news flow and the stock was down 10%. Big volumes here. PNB Housing was down sharply. Skipper Limited, NIIT Limited and something like a SBFC, Small Business Finance, were also lower. That's not to say that what was up didn't have volumes. Actually, it's a pretty long list of volume-led gainers even today, even though numerically declines were more than advances. Mazgaon Dock, late mover, and it rose to the top of the list in terms of volume-led gainers today. Quest Corp was sharply higher. There was Jyoti CNC, which looked good. 5 stars, that's a lender. EMS Limited. Edelweiss is back to in the 140-ish zone. There was Fairchem, Donier up from the morning, Precall and Borosil Renewables. Some of the names, volume-led gains that we had in the broader space. I mean, The market sulking, the Nifty closing around the 20-day moving average, from which level the market had bounced last Friday when we had that frantic, manic kind of a move. The question is, as we head into the Fed, that is only tomorrow, will there be more pain or will the market find sort of supports around these daily averages? Back to you.
All right, Prashant, many thanks. The market sulking, and speaking of weakness, even in the money market, the rupee hit a new low against the US dollar, moving closer to the 85 mark. So that is where the dollar rupee closed for the day. In fact, India's trade deficit hitting $38 billion in November, which is a record high. Monthly imports also hit a new high of $70 billion. The dollar index is also gaining ahead of the US Federal Reserve's rate decision that is expected later this week, and that is where the bond markets closed. Now, the Bitcoin has continued its record-breaking rally. There's no stopping it. It's hit a new all-time high of $107,000. This after President-elect Donald Trump reiterated his plans to create a U.S. Bitcoin strategic reserve. Bitcoin buyer MicroStrategy's entry into the tech-heavy NASDAQ 100 index has also lifted investor sentiment. The cryptocurrency's market cap is above $2.11 trillion. That's the Bitcoin for you. But heading back home, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman has called the slowdown in Q2 GDP growth as a temporary blip. Speaking in the Lok Sabha on the supplementary demand for grants, the Finance Minister said the government's capital expenditure effectively began only in August post the elections and expects overall growth rate to pick up. GDP growth slowed to 5.4% in Q2, which is the slowest that we've seen in the last 7 quarters. Take a look.
GDP growth rate was lower than 5.4% in 2 quarters, quarter 4 of 21-22 and quarter 3 of 22-23. So it's important to understand that this drop happened just 2 quarters in the last 12 quarters that we're talking about. So let us not sort of pick on that one and predict future. This has been a steady growth and a steady, sustained growth. The implementation of new announcements of this government commenced after the Appropriation Act was passed by the Parliament in August 2024. Effectively, it is from August that we are starting to give emphasis to many of the things, inclusive of capital expenditure.
Well, the Finance Minister there on an expectation of growth picking up. Shares of Vedanta slipped in early trade after the company's board declared a 4th interim dividend for the current fiscal at 8.5 rupees per share. The dividend payout amounts to 3,324 crore rupees. Now, this will take the total dividend in FY25 so far to 16,800 crores. The record date for the payout has been set as the 24th of December 2024. Manufacturing facility of pharma company Indoco Remedies in Goa has received a warning letter from the U.S. drug regulator. The Goa facilities, Plant 2 and 3, have received an official action indicated status in October. Indoco has not specified the factors behind the issuance of the warning letter. However, the company said that it continues to supply products from this facility. On to a CNBC-TV18 exclusive. The GST Council is likely to consider lowering the tax on food delivery by online portals from 18% to 5%. However, these portals will potentially lose the input tax credit benefits, bringing them on par with restaurants. So actually, it is not likely to be a big relief at all. Sources also point out that the council may consider tax exemption on small ticket card payments made via payment aggregators worth up to 2,000 rupees. The GST Council will meet on the 21st of December in Jaisalmer. Timsy is standing by with more on the council's agenda. Timsy.
The council could deliberate on lowering tax on food delivery by e-commerce operators on the delivery charges from current 18% to 5% without input tax credit. Fitment Committee is likely to propose this reduction, which will be applicable from 1st of January 2022, that is retrospectively from 2022. E-commerce players have been pleading this to bring them at par with restaurant services. Apart from that, for hotels, especially where the room tariff is more than 7,500 rupees per day per night, over there restaurants will have an option to choose to either select tax rate from 5% without ITC to 18% with ITC. However, this will be applicable from 1st of April 2025. So all these proposals, if agreed upon, could be a major change that we could see from the GST Council. Back to you.
All right, Imzi, many thanks. So watch out for the GST Council meeting on the 21st of December. The deal between Adani Green and the Andhra Pradesh government, which is facing bribery allegations in the US, has reportedly approved against the advice of state officials. This as per a Reuters report. Now, Reuters says the Andhra Pradesh cabinet, under the former Chief Minister Jagan Mohan Reddy, overruled the advice from officials and approved the Adani deal. Officials in the Finance and Energy departments flagged additional costs and said the deal was not good value, according to documents seen by Reuters. The US State Department has accused Adani of paying 1,750 crore rupees to bribe senior officials in the Andhra Pradesh government to secure the power supply agreement. Adani has denied those charges. Taiwanese laptop maker MSI has begun manufacturing operations in its first plant in Chennai. The company plans to locally produce versions of 2 laptop models. MSI has also partnered with retail brands including Chroma and Reliance Retail to expand its footprint. Telecom Minister Jyotiraditya Scindia has said that satellite spectrum cannot be auctioned due to technical and operational reasons. In a post on social media platform X, the minister maintained that the spectrum cannot be assigned to a single person or entity. His statement comes after the Congress leader Jairam Ramesh accused the government of favouring an administrative allocation of spectrum. Now, Paytm's shares rose for the third day, even as it remained 50% below its IPO price. The lifting of the ban to onboard new UPI customers and the stake sale in Japan's PayPay Corporation have boosted sentiment. Ritu joins us now with details on the recovery that seems to be underway at Paytm. Ritu.
Well, 2024 has been the best year for Paytm's parent 197 Communications stock price since its tepid listing in 2021. And that is saying something, given that it's also been one of the worst years for the company with the regulatory action against its payment bank arm at the start of the year. Now, the recent rally follows the announcement of a stake sale in PayPay Corp for more than 2,300 crore rupees. And the stock is now up 3 times from its all-time low of 310 rupees. Now, while it may be premature to call this a full turnaround, there are some signs of recovery which are emerging. Number one, Paytm is doubling down on a few key areas. It is reactivating its 13.5 crore UPI user base and also expanding it after the NPCI in October lifted a 9-month ban on onboarding new customers. Second, it is focusing on cross-selling financial products to boost revenues, and the focus is very much on high-margin lending, insurance and equity brokerage partnerships. Its key financial services customers had dropped to 6 lakhs in the second quarter from 8.1 lakh before the RBI action, a number which it is now aiming to rebuild. There are also renewed hopes for a payment aggregator license, which could be another positive trigger after the government approved its downstream investment into Paytm payment services. On the merchant side, onboarding is gathering pace. Its merchant base is now at 42 million, device merchants at 11.2 million, and the management expects further growth this quarter driven by the festive season, and it anticipates turning EBITDA positive by the fourth quarter of the year. So it is this improving outlook which has softened some of the bearish sentiment on the street.
All right, Ritu, many thanks for joining us. In international news, US President-elect Donald Trump has announced that Softbank will invest $100 billion in America over the next 4 years. Softbank chairman Masayoshi Son met Trump at his residence in Florida and promised to create 1 lakh jobs in the US. Son has made similar announcements in 2016 after Trump won his first presidential election.
Excited to go, and we were discussing, and President Trump said, Masa, double that is not enough. Maybe, go for more, right?
That's what I'm going to ask him right now. Would you make it $200 billion instead of He can actually, believe it or not, he can actually afford to do that. Would you do that?
Well, my promise is 100, but, he's now asking to do more. I think, with your leadership, my partnership with you, with your support, I will try to make it happen.
That's good.
All right.
200. He'll make it happen. 200 billion investment.
He is a great negotiator.
And that's SoftBank's Masayoshi Son there with US President-elect Donald Trump. Now, Trump also met TikTok CEO and said he has a warm spot for the company. However, he has remained non-committal on protecting the firm. Remember, TikTok needs to divest Chinese ownership by the 19th of January 2025 to avert a ban in the US after a court ruling.
We'll take a look at TikTok. I have a warm spot in my heart for TikTok because I won youth by 34 points. And There are those that say that TikTok had something to do with that. Now, Joe Rogan did, and some of the other people that were recommended by my son Barron, he knew names.
Well, that's Trump on TikTok. Time for us to head into a short break. But up next, the representation of women in corporate boardrooms remains largely stagnant this year, according to a survey by Excellence Enablers. That and more when we return. The government has introduced the legislation to conduct simultaneous elections in the Lok Sabha amidst fierce pushback from the opposition. The Congress has demanded the immediate withdrawal of the bill, calling it an assault on the Constitution. The government has referred the bill to a joint parliamentary committee for further deliberation.
There are certain features of the Indian Constitution which are beyond the amending power of this House also. One of the essential features is federalism and the structure of our democracy. And therefore, the bills which have been moved by the Honourable Minister of Law and Justice absolutely assault the basic structure of the Constitution and are beyond the legislative competence of this House, and therefore they need to be opposed ab initio, and the introduction of those bills have to be stopped.
माननीय सदस्य बालू साहब ने कहा कि इसको जेपीसी को दे देना चाहिए। जब ये संविधान सुधार का विधेयक, संवैधानिक संशोधन जब कैबिनेट में चर्चा में आया, तब प्रधानमंत्री जी ने स्वयं मनसा व्यक्त करी थी कि इसको जेपीसी को देना चाहिए। इस पर विस्तृत चर्चा सभी स्तर पर होनी चाहिए।
Well, the debate in Parliament on the One Nation, One Poll bill. The representation of women in corporate boardrooms has remained largely stagnant this year. This as per a survey by Excellence Enablers. The average age of the boardroom is over 63, and out of 561 independent directors, only 19 are below the age of 50. Rachna joins us now with more. Rachna, take us through what the report highlights about governance in our boardrooms.
The fifth corporate governance survey by Excellence Enablers highlights where the Nifty 100 companies are excelling and where they still fall short. While diversity and compliance are improving, significant challenges remain in board composition, shareholder engagement and CSR execution. Let's look at it closely. First is diversity. While women independent directors have increased from 101 in FY21 to 147 in FY24, the total number of female directors on board has steadily declined, down from 57 in 2021 to just 53 in 2024. More concerning, women still represent only 20% of the total board members, a percentage that has stagnated for the last 3 years. Moreover, of the Nifty 100 companies, 5 companies still did not have an independent director who's a woman on their boards. The survey also notes that while the presence of a woman on boards has been mandated, there is no similar provision for these women executives to graduate into board positions. The survey highlights declining shareholder engagement as well at annual general meetings. Shareholder participation has dropped dramatically, with attendance falling to just 0.18% in FY24. Virtual AGMs, which became common during the pandemic, have reduced opportunities for direct interaction. The survey strongly recommends a hybrid AGM model to bridge this gap and enhance engagement. It also notes that the shortest AGM this year lasted only 19 minutes. On the corporate social responsibility front, the survey notes that companies are meeting spending mandates but fall short on impact assessments. While CSR funds are being deployed, meaningful employee volunteering and long-term outcome measurements remain limited. The survey notes that in FY24, one company did not transfer the unspent amount of CSR to the CSR account and did not give any reason at all. Over 22 such companies did not transfer any money to their CSR accounts, and so they are being urged to focus not just on compliance, but on delivering tangible benefits to society. The survey suggests that good governance isn't just about ticking compliance boxes, but it's about meaningful action and accountability.
All right, Rachna, appreciate you joining us. Now, before we wrap this edition of Business 360, we bring you a collaborative initiative by Grow and CNBC-TV18. Our mission is to equip you with valuable insights and strategies to make informed trading decisions. Today, we help you understand why you should not trade during certain market hours. Take a look.
It's late, the markets are quiet, but you're tempted to trade. Beware. This is when real risks creep in. During overnight hours, liquidity is low, spreads widen, and market movements become unpredictable. Even small trades can cause big price swings. Global events can unfold while you are sleeping. Unexpected announcements, geopolitical shocks, or even policy decisions can create massive gaps at the market open, leaving you blindsided. The solution? Avoid overnight trades. Instead, focus on active hours when liquidity is higher and market reactions are more in control. Use tools to track global events and set stop losses if you must hold positions overnight. By avoiding overnight trades, you reduce unnecessary risk, protect your capital, and sleep peacefully, knowing that your portfolio isn't at the mercy of unexpected events.